What do you think went into the dip in production for Joe Mixon, and what do you feel like his future is here in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think Duke and Zach kind of touched on that. There's a business side of all of this puzzle that gets put together every year. That guys are on the bad side of the business occasionally. Hopefully that's not the case for Joe. I love Joe. Love having him part of our team. He's meant a lot to the Bengals over the last handful of years, and he's captain of our team and all of those things. So hopefully that's not what happens. But again, that's not anything I have control over at this point. But yeah, I love Joe, and he means the world to me and our team. And hopefully the business side shakes out the way that it's supposed to. But those aren't things that I can do much about. As far as his dip in production goes, I think we didn't run the ball as well at times last year than I think we're capable of. Some of that is who we're playing. Some of that is not playing well enough on our end. And I think that'll be a point of emphasis for us over the offseason is to find a way to be a more consistent rushing team than we've been. Our efficiency in our run game is one of the things I can tell you guys all the time that we look at, but has been pretty positive over the year. But as far as raw numbers go, we could get more production out of the run game for sure.
It looks like they'll have a pop in the middle of the year that y'all made the kind of switch to more gap-based runs.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of faded towards the end of the year. Any particular reasons for why that was the case?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we lean pretty heavily into the gun run game because that's what we are. We're a shotgun team. Burrow's in the gun. Had to find ways to marry up the shotgun passing formations with the ability to marry it up with running formations and play actions and all those things. And it was really well done by Frank Pollock getting all that stuff lined up. I thought it was a pretty impressive, kind of mid-season pivot on his part. Obviously, we felt like those guys up front were better gap scheme blockers. They're big, heavy-handed dudes between LC and Kappa and Karras and Volson. Those guys are gap scheme style players. So we tried to fit it to them as best we could. But, I think then we'll continue to do that. I think we invested in a little bit more of the RPO game this year. That's something that I think will continue to be a part of what we do, find different ways to exploit those matchups and secondary structures and all that. It's all part of the offseason study that's coming up for us here in the next couple months. So, find some ways to see if we can improve it.
Explosion in the run game is a point of emphasis going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it still is. What are you looking for maybe out of this draft class?
Yeah.
You have some agents.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you looking for?
Yeah, you want guys that have put on tape that they have the long speed to break long runs. That's a part of it. Being able to separate from the secondary players, which generally speaking, most running backs are going to be slower than the guys in the secondary chasing them. But you want guys that show the ability on tape to hit home runs. Guys that can break tackles. Breaking tackles is a huge part of explosiveness in the run game. We can only get so many hats on hats, and there's always going to be at least one free guy for a back. And they got to be able to make that player miss, and that's how you generate explosive runs. We can do a better job than we've done trying to get guys into those spaces better and giving them chances at explosive runs. Sometimes some schemes aren't as friendly for that. Some of the gap schemes and stuff can be a little bit more of a bloody style run game and not as exciting explosively. So I've got to find ways to mix both.
How do you evaluate the tight end game, Brian, and what Hayden is able to give you in his first year?
Yeah, I thought Hayden really stepped up and provided us a ton of value. I didn't expect him to be probably as good as he was for us just because his tape was limited. We knew he had the capability of being a highly productive player, but weren't sure what it would look like for us. And he came in and did a fantastic job being able to create explosive plays. He was really tough and physical in the run game, which was what we weren't sure what we were going to get in that regard. I thought he really developed as a blocker. His toughness was on display. His energy is on display. Really enjoyed getting to know him and having him. I expressed to him before we left how much he meant to our team and the energy he provided, and hopefully we can find a way to get the guys that we like back. Again, those aren't necessarily things I can control, but I know that he was a really valuable part of our offense and brought a dynamic ability in the pass game that, as you watch all the free agents out there and I watch his tape again, he's a really, really good tight end, and hopefully we have a chance to bring him back.
How different would a Bengals offense be without Hayden Hurst in 2022? What would the drop-off be if assuming he's not
Hard to say, because someone's got to play tight end because right now there's not a lot of guys on the roster under contract. But we do have some young players that we like. I think Mitchell Wilcox really had a nice year. He's restricted, but he's a guy that really blossomed and developed along the time frame here. And then we got Nick Bowers and Tanner Hudson we signed late in the year in the practice squad. Guys that really curious to see how they develop. Tight end's a position that generally takes a little bit of time. They don't always come in and hit right away. It's a hard position to play, and we ask a lot of those guys. And James has a tough job getting them all up to speed. But we got some guys we're excited about, and again, we're going to have to find tight end somewhere, whether it's draft or free agency, whether that means re-signing Hayden or not, however that looks. We're going to have to find some tight ends that can play for us.
Can you envision a scenario where Jonah moves to the right side, just based on free agency or draft, or do you think he's entrenched kind of?
It'd be tough. I mean, he spent his whole career really, especially as a pro, as a left tackle. Moving him would probably be pretty difficult. That's probably not something that he would be necessarily excited about either. I'm sure as a team first guy, he would do it if that's what was best for us. But it's a hard switch to make for a guy that's played a lot of snaps at left tackle over his career and very minimal at right. I know he did some at Alabama, but as far as a pro, that's a pretty difficult switch.
Draft-wise, you're right, tight ends, it takes a while for some of them.
Yep.
What are you looking for to potentially get a guy that can hit the ground?
You can see there are some guys that are ready, that have more up and down experience doing the blocking, doing the catching, depending on the style of offense they play in college. There are some guys that look like they could be ready quicker than others, but you never know because the defensive ends they have to play against in the run game are difficult. The schemes are a lot more intricate. The technique is so much more important, and it takes time for those guys to get there. So there's probably some guys that are going to have some success early, but ideally you're looking for somebody who's got at least the traits to physically be able to do the job, the height, weight, and the speed, and has some athleticism that they can do what tight ends have to do, which is be big enough and strong enough and physical enough to block and still be able to run and catch and be explosive in the pass game. It's a unique position.
How do you figure out when a tight end, because there's a lot of different explosion and maybe not blocking tight ends, how can you project that they could end up being blockers at the next level? How do you do that? Is it possible?
To some degree it is. I mean, you want to see willingness. You want to see a natural, physicality that's how they play the game. Whether they're technically up to speed yet or not, that's our job to get them there when they get to this level. But you try to look for the traits that jump out on tape, ideally, that there's some sort of physicality that jumps off and willingness and tenacity that you sort of have to have a baseline of to do the job.
When you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase specifically on the field at the same time, what does that allow you to do schematically?
Well, it's hard to double everybody, and I think that we had some teams try to double those guys, and that's where the effectiveness of our underneath game with the tight ends, with Hayden, with Mixon in the passing game, with Tyler in the middle of the field, is that you can double one, you can double two. It's hard to double three, and so there's going to be a singled up somewhere, and you hope that you have a player that can mismatch those guys they're trying to cover them with. Usually linebackers, if they're doubling, it's usually doubling with safety. So you're looking at linebackers covering, some of your skill players inside. So. A lot of teams cheat to Jamar, even when they're not doubling them, and that's allowed T to, I think, really be incredibly productive for us over the last season and a half as Jamar's come on, provided a nice compliment to him. He's a huge piece of what we do.
If you guys, Zach on yesterday, or Duke kind of mentioned as well, with the growth that T has had and how much he's developed.
Yeah.
What's it been like for him? Like, probably what's the most impressive thing that you've seen, and now the time has been growing? He's been impressive really from the day he's gotten here. But just to see his maturity, how he approaches his day-to-day business, how he takes care of himself. You learn that as a pro. You learn how to take care of your body to be able to play 17 games now, to be able to play deep into the playoffs. The maturity part of studying and knowing what to do, to me, is the part that doesn't get seen very often, but that's what we see. And that's been really impressive because T's always been physically talented. He's always made plays on the field really since he got here. So that part's really expected, but just the rest of it, how he's grown as a person, has been really the part that I've enjoyed watching.
Have you guys changed your view of maybe a number four receiver? I know last year at this time, it was talked about.
Yeah.
You thought, you guys were pretty happy with what you had there. Any change of that? TV down, the title game.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, we felt really good about what Trenton Irwin supplied us in those moments. Obviously, missed Jamar there for a month, and Trenton played a lot, had some big plays. It's hard to find. It's hard to be 4 deep at receiver. We're really good at our top 2 and TB at the slot. I mean, it's a rare thing to have as much talent as we do at those spots, and it's hard to get a 4th receiver in those outside line. There's not a lot of guys that want to come here because they know it's going to be, it's not going to see the field a lot. So you got to develop those guys and work with those guys. And like I said, Trent Irwin's a testament to our program and the development he's had over the course of time. And sure, you're always looking. I'd love to have 4 receivers that could be starting caliber receivers, but that's not always the reality. And you got to find guys and develop them and coach them. So if you can get a 4th receiver that you think has the ability to ascend into a higher role as he improves, then sure, it's great. We'd love to find one like that, but it doesn't always pan out that way. We're always looking to improve our depth from top to bottom, and so if receiver's one of them that comes up, then obviously going to explore it.
What was your evaluation of Lyle Collins' season before he got hurt?
It was good. It took him a while to get his feet underneath him from his injury, the back injury in training camp and the lack of practice. I felt like he sort of hit his stride about mid-season, really started playing well for us. You could see his physicality, his length, his strength always show up, particularly in protection. He's a hard guy to run through. He'd make guys have to go run around him. But he played well as the season went along. I thought he got better and better. Unfortunately, I wish he got to finish it with him playing healthy, but I thought he ascended as the year went along. And so that was a good thing for us to see. It really helped us win those games down the stretch. And then obviously losing him was a tough blow at the tackle spot because he's a hard human to replicate as far as his size and strength. So, we felt that loss a little bit too.
Obviously, he's a question mark because of the injury. But the other 4 spots, you feel confident taking those guys moving forward?
Yeah, those guys did a nice job for us. You're always looking to improve up front. You're always looking for depth. You're always looking for guys that can compete. It's always a constant process. Obviously, with Jonah where he's at contractually, you're always looking for guys that, you're always having one eye towards the future on what that looks like, whether it's him or somebody else. You're always making sure you got guys that you're developing because just like tight end, it's a position that generally takes some development and some time. So you want guys that you're constantly working to develop and constantly trying to get improvement from. So, you could say that it's as most positions are, with the exception of probably our quarterback and our receivers. You're always looking for guys that are going to help you and improve your team.
I asked Lou this earlier, but for you and Lou and Zach to be together for a 5th straight year, almost unheard of.
Yeah.
Have that kind of continuity. What makes it so special being back next year?
It's an advantage, our league is made up of minuscule advantages as best you can find them, and that's certainly going to be one of them that helps us. Just because we know what we're looking for, what we're trying to get done, what our schemes are. We know our assistant coaches. Our communication's fantastic. It's an advantage for us. Now we got to go out and take advantage of that. We still got to go out and do it again. Nothing's going to be given to us because we're all here together again. We still got to go coach football and coach hard and put our guys in position to have success. So, but it is certainly an advantage, and I've said it before, but I love being here. I love working here. I love our organization. I love our players. It's a great place to be. I think a lot of people feel that way now. They're starting to see what we've known about it for a while. So certainly excited to be able to chance to get to go do it again.
Are there things you take, Brian, from those interview processes that help you here when you return?
Yeah, there to some degree. I mean, if it reshapes what you focus on. There's elements of being a head coach that you never think about as a coordinator, and so when you get exposed to those processes, you are forced to think more about those types of things, more kind of bird's eye view of an organization and how all the pieces work together, because it's part of the process to be able to get a chance to be a head coach. You have to feel really good about how you're going to have all those things set up across an organization, and so but I would say when it's time to get back to normal work and back in the grind of it, I return right back to the job that I do, and that's helping coordinate the offense.
Brian, there's a belief that Bieniemy had to pull away from Andy Reid to maybe then get himself a chance to be a head coach.
Sure.
Do you feel like a day will come that you may have to do that with Zach, or is this an independent situation?
I think all those situations are independent. There's going to be people that argue that that's something that should be done or shouldn't be done. I think you can look at plenty of guys that didn't call plays that have gotten jobs and had success. So I don't know that that's a prerequisite, but I think that each situation is different, and there certainly can be a perception that that's part of what you have to do. But I don't feel that currently where I'm at, and it doesn't really cross my mind much, to be honest with you.
What's the next step in Joe Burrow's development? What would you like to see in the course of this offseason? How is going to be going here for?
Yeah, that's when you're playing as well as he's played, it's hard to pinpoint. Well, his improvements are going to be minuscule. They're going to be things that not everybody sees. They're going to be, details of the position that are not as exciting to talk about necessarily, but there's always room to improve. There's always more mastery of a system. There's always more looks he's seen, more answers he can have in his back pocket when he sees, teams have started to play him a lot differently. So he's adapted to that. But as far as like big, game physical changes, I think he's made strides every year he's come out and played. I think the acknowledgement and understanding of how sacks can negatively affect an offense, especially on early downs. He did a really good job of avoiding those as much as possible. I think he's playing football as a quarterback as about a high level as you can play it. And so I wouldn't say there's going to be any sweeping changes to what he can get better at. He's always going to continue to work on the finer points of his game and the mental part of it. But, I don't have anything glaring at this point that I would say he's got to improve on. I think he's played pretty damn good football.
What was your last view? What was your view of the last two series? I think everybody just assumed, shit, they're going to go down and score and go back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I certainly felt that way.
Yeah. What happened? Why didn't it happen?
Well, I thought once we converted that 3rd and 16 there, I thought that was it. I think, all right, this is going to be it. We're going to go win the game.
Right.
And we had kind of just, the Kansas City had played, they were tight in coverage most of the day. They made it hard. They doubled Jamar quite a bit. And really the pass rush was effective. They made us get rid of the ball. We had to throw it fast. They played tight coverage. It was really a good combination, as defensive guys always talk about, of rush and coverage working together for them. And got to the 3rd and 8, and I thought we had a chance. The coverage was good. The rush was fast, and we didn't get a chance to convert it. And so, you always look back and see if you could have been in a different call, but you don't necessarily know what they're going to be in either. And I was very confident after we converted that 3rd down that I thought we were going to kick a field goal to go win the game.
The interception, I guess it came on a tip. I don't know. What was your view of the interception? I think
the one at T, the one we threw to T.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a route that he was trying to run a fade, got tangled up. I think if we had the pocket got pushed, so Joe had to get rid of it, and he didn't quite know where T was going on his line. Didn't quite have a feel for where he was going to be, and then had to let it go a little earlier than I think he wanted to. And that's all you need sometimes in a big game to turn a ball over.
Yeah, those were the I think that was a 2nd and 3, and those were the exact kind of situations you guys have been kind of take what you give you. That in the 10-game winning streak, right?
And it was a one-on-one to T. It was he was green lit on that play to take that throw, and it would have been I think if it had a chance to be a good play. Obviously it wasn't, and we still almost had a chance to overcome it, but ultimately we didn't. And so that's 2 years in a row now. We've come up just a bit short in the Super Bowl and just a bit short in the championship game, and it's motivating. It drives you to not be in that spot again. Hopefully we can finish it off.
I know that injuries obviously had a lot to do with the offensive line play at the end of the season with Kappa and Collins being out, but do you feel like there's still another level that this offensive line can get to in terms of continuing to improve protection for Burrow?
Of course, yeah. There's, it's been a steady climb and a steady build for us trying to get it to where we want it to be, and we had long stretches this year where it was really good, and those guys played good football. Obviously, having Kappa in there versus Chris Jones in the championship game would have probably made quite a bit of difference for us, just in terms of caliber as a player. That he played really well against him the first time, and Chris Jones didn't do a lot in that game. Obviously, he did a lot in the second game, and having Kappa would have been helpful. LC would have been helpful too. Just having those guys play together, playing well at that point. Losing them right at the end was tough to overcome for us. Unfortunately, I wish we could have, but I think that we're always looking to continue to build at that spot.
How much did that impact the run game? And what was, Brian, the difference between the Bills' running attack against the Bills and the Chiefs?
Different schemes, different styles. Obviously, it was, we found some things against the Bills that worked really well for us in the run game. Really well designed plan, and obviously the Chiefs were a little bit harder. They got a good front. Those linebackers are really good players. Their front's really good. It's really active. They're disruptive. Just more of a matchup issue for us than anything else. I thought we felt good about the plan going in, but the way the game unfolded, those guys were hard to block at the end of the day.
What's been kind of the holdup with Chris Evans' development in terms of him not really being able to get on the field for you guys?
Yeah, I thought Chris had a good preseason. We try to find places for him, but really for him as the third back, the special teams part of it's been really critical. And I know it's probably more a question for Darren, but I thought Travion as a kick returner came on at the end of the year for us, and that's why he took that third spot. You only get 3 active on game day, and it's hard to get 3 backs on the field when you're talking about first, second down, and the third down portion. Chris has done well in his limited role that we've had him in, but it was hard for him to supplant Samaje as a runner and Samaje as a protector, and certainly wasn't going to supplant Joe at any point. So hard to get carries in there and rotate him around. It's hard for him to get more carries to get better. That's the hardest part, is you're trying to get him work so he can get better, but didn't get enough opportunities. So, again, a big offseason for him. There's going to be opportunities for him, so we'll see. Hopefully he's ready to roll and he can rise to the occasion for us.
Get back to the O-line. Did Jackson Carman change your assessment of who he is or who he can be the way he played against Buffalo?
He did a nice job. I mean, we've always felt like Jackson is capable, and he's grown up a ton. He's done a lot of things better. Really felt good about what he put on tape against Buffalo. There's some things that he can clean up technically and all that stuff. He's not a complete player by any stretch, but really felt good about where he was at. I'm excited about his trajectory. We need him to be better. We need him to be a good player for us, and I think he's up to that task. And again, it's another big offseason for him, developmentally too, going into his third year, really being able to know what to do, how to do it, what's being asked of you, I think is an important part of it. And so expectations are high for him. They have been since he got here.
You moved him to guard as soon as you the day you drafted him. Do you rethink that maybe, or maybe his future could
Yeah,
be
there's part of that. It's hard. I can't sit here and say that we're going to move his position at this point, but he did some good things. He's much more comfortable as a tackle. He put some good things on tape, and that's certainly something that we'll, as these weeks move forward, we'll have more conversations about. But he showed well for himself as a tackle.
Can he compete for the start?
What about both sides? Left and right? Both sides? Left and right side?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, anytime that you're playing tackle, you're going to have to be able to play both sides as a backup tackle. But yeah, I mean, I think he's got tackle ability. We always felt like he had some tackle ability. Obviously, he doesn't have the length that most starting tackles do, arm length and all that stuff. But I do feel like we felt like he had tackle potential even when we drafted him. We moved him to guard because that was the spot that we felt like he could help us immediately. But certainly he showed well enough as a tackle that's a possibility of a conversation that we'll have to have.
Would he be more equipped to play right tackle than Jonah?
I mean, just as far as available spots, yeah, that would be what would probably have to shake out for him. But and again, he worked both tackles on both sides all through the second half of the year, so it's not something that's foreign to him. So I think you get off season to work at the tackle spots and start to feel good about either side.
Thanks, Brian.
Good.
Thank you, sir.